Welcome to the Daily Dialogues. In this edition, we have a very prominent professor from Development Management Institute, Patna, Dr. Selvarajan Rajeshwaran. Welcome to the Daily Dialogue, sir. We are extremely delighted that you have agreed to join us on a very, very critical topic. And that topic is of interest to every one of us, be the farmers, be the processors, or the consumers. And the topic is milk prices. And today's what we are going to discuss with Dr. Selvarajan is how milk prices are discovered in India. Very critical topic. I think our audience will find it like really, really interesting. So welcome to the dialogue, Dr. Selvarajan Rajeshwaran. First question to you, like, because I have known you for a while, I have known of your institution, and you have a massive, massive legacy of experience behind you. But for some of our audience who are slightly younger, we would like to know who you are, where are you as of now, and what kind of research work that currently you are involved with. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Prashant, for this opportunity to share my views on this topic of milk pricing. I am basically a veterinarian. I have worked in the dairy sector for about last 40 years. I've been working in the dairy sector, both actually on the ground also. And I have done a PhD on milk price itself from IIM Bangalore. And my PhD was on the topic of in public policy, but specifically on milk price per se. So this has been, of course, because I'm a practitioner. I have been running dairies across the country, from Rajasthan to Tamil Nadu, across the country. So this has been a point of, always has been on my mind. And it was that's good that Prashant, it just both of us have happened to come to the same wavelength at this point of time. But this has been on my background for a long, long time. Very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a veterinarian. Yeah. So I have finished my PhD in public policy. So presently I am an academician working at the Development Management Institute at Patna in Bihar. And I teach livelihoods and livestock management to post-PG students at the institute. And of course, I have also done state livestock policy papers for different states. Uttarakhand is one which I have done recently. So Bihar, I hope I get an opportunity to contribute to Bihar also. Let's see.
Yeah. So you mentioned Uttarakhand. I'm extremely excited because I actually come from Uttarakhand. So my parents live in Dehradun, so it would be very interesting to see, because I personally see, specifically all the Gangetic belt, I personally see they have extremely good potential of dairy, but I think we are not harnessing the potential well as of now. But thanks a lot for your introduction, Doctor. Now coming to the first and most critical question. What is actually a milk price, and how many types of milk prices are there?
Yeah, that's a most important question. We start from the basics as such.
Yeah.
As per my research, first time I didn't know what is milk price itself per se, because of course I knew two prices. One is the price which we purchase from the farmer, which is called a farmgate price, number one.
Yeah.
Number two is a consumer price which we sell. Of different product lines of milk as such. So I knew two prices as such. The third one, I realized that is also called WPI wholesale price index of milk also. There are three prices on a continuously running side by side at any point of time.
Yeah.
So now that really intrigued me, and then that's where my whole research topic started. That there are actually three price lines. And as per the pure competitive market mechanism, pure capitalist market mechanism, the price signals are supposed to move from one end to the other, back to forth.
Yeah.
If there is a demand, an increased demand vis-a-vis the supply, the price should rise, obviously. Yeah. Similarly, if the production is on a lower side compared to the demand, what is there should be a balancing mechanism. The price is the final point at which it changes. The price is only actually the indicator of that demand-supply gap. It's purely that. That's important. The price is actually indicator of the demand-supply gap, if there is any, and how it meets out as such. So that's the first. So the 3 points. First is that there are 3 price lines which continuously run parallelly to each other over time.
Okay.
And there is also a legacy. That's important. The point you're just talking about it, that there is also a legacy on which each price line stands. There's a very high correlation between what is today vis-a-vis T minus 1 or T minus 2, T minus 3. There is a huge correlation between that. I mean, there's a past legacy which always will have. See, there's no, you cannot wish away that T minus 1, T2, T minus 2 story at all. For all the price lines independently. So that's one of the main factors on which the prices are decided independently.
Okay.
Second point. So the legacy is very important. Number 2. Number 3 is that the final findings, let me come to the final findings of my report, my thesis is that these 3 price lines are independent. I mean, that was an awakening for me, frankly. Which essentially means that there is no translation between the consumer price to WPI to the farmgate price. There is no correlation or causation. Therefore, there was no causation. There is no correlation itself. So causation, you cannot talk about it at all. So there is no correlation between the 3 consumer price line, WPI, which is wholesale price index, and the farmgate price.
Okay.
And that is a revelation.
Actually,
and which essentially means that the market is refusing to, not allowing the price signals to travel across the whole spectrum of the space of the livestock, the milk market as such. The word which we normally use is called oligopolistic market.
Oligopolistic, yeah.
In all agriculture commodities, oligopolistic market, there is an oligopsony and oligopoly also, both ways. Because the number of players in between the consumer and the producer are very few as compared to the retail consumer or the retail producer. This is a typical Indian situation is very, very interesting because the producers are huge in number. They produce only half a liter or 1 liter average marketable surplus comes to the system. Similarly, the consumers also consume about half to 1 liter per day. That's say 400 per capita availability is around 400 grams as of now. So we assume that the consumption is also around 400 grams. Is also half a liter to 1 liter each family consumes. So, and the number of players are very few. And therefore, the complete market power in terms of price at every point, all the 3 points actually lies with the person who is in the middle.
So technically the processor.
The processor, absolutely. Or the trader or the processor as such. If they process it, otherwise they just trade, okay, buy it and sell it. So that person has that power. Oligopolistic because we all gang up together and work as a monopoly. You know the story of monopoly. I mean that the complete power lies with you. Typical example is what I've written recently in the papers or in the LinkedIn also. Is that last year the price of last 12 months the price of milk has risen by 6 rupees. Assume that is 50 rupees is the consumer price. Around 12% increase over a 1 year, 12-year period, 12 months period.
And that
this is the consumer price. But the producer price is around 30 rupees. Assume that the 30 rupees is the producer price. Has the producer price increased by a similar 12%? If it was a perfectly competitive market, it should have increased.
The
12 rupees increase in the 12% price in the consumer price immediately gets translated to the 12% increase in the milk farmgate price.
Farmgate prices.
Which actually instigates more production. And therefore the 12% will become less than 12%. That's all. The increase would sort of hold down the rise in the price of the consumer price and at some level. If it has risen by 12%, we are in a fantastic situation.
Yeah.
Very perfectly competitive market.
Exactly.
That's an ideal situation.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Theoretically, it should immediately translate to what 12%.
Yeah.
They're all free market mechanism we are working under.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so the de facto should have risen by 12%. Now the question comes, we can track, anyone can track the consumer price very easily. Because yesterday I bought 1 liter and today I bought 1 liter. So over the period of I know exactly the different types of milk is there. Okay, understandable.
Yeah.
But approximately, even if I consume the same type of milk, I know that this is the rising price.
Yeah, that is true.
So to some extent, there is some understanding there. WPI, we have a monthly data which is coming in from the government of India.
Yeah.
So we have 2 data points which we can immediately relate.
Yeah, exactly.
Very easily relate. But as I told you, there is no correlation at all. That's the point. So even if there's data is there, and I have found that there is no correlation between the WPI and the consumer price. And the farmgate price is a very, very tricky story. Very tricky story.
Every one of us are very curious about this tricky story. Like what happens on the farmgate prices?
It is a state secret. It is a secret.
Yeah. It appears like it's a secret. Yeah, I completely agree.
Everyone, even those players who claim that their heart bleeds for their members, prefer to keep the final actual figure paid to their members under behind the curtain. Not just the average. Now, I would definitely like to know the frequency, the maximum, minimum, and the decile frequency.
Yeah.
How many of your members are getting what? How many percentage of members? The top 10%, the next 10%, the next 10%. What are they getting? It's not available.
Yeah, it's not available. Yeah.
And this is a public good. Yaad rakhna. Please note that this is actually a public good. Price of milk received by a farmer on a day-to-day basis is a public good. And it is not available.
Yeah.
The moment you make a public good into a private good, the whole market mechanism collapses.
Yeah, actually, one thing that I did like recently, I wanted to understand what is being paid, what price is being paid, and what price has been paid in the last 12 months. I contacted a few people, did not get an answer, so I filed in an RTI. And it was mentioned to me that these data are not maintained by the department. I said, okay, very well and good and fine. I asked them, okay, give me the 2-axis data sheet that you have that was also not provided. So yeah, like that's why I'm just as you mentioned, this is like it's a secret, but it should be a public good. I'm also intrigued by myself. Then what is actually happening? So yeah, so Dr. Selvarajan, like I have seen these 2-axis pricing on the fat and SNF thing for cows and buffaloes that has been placed into multiple places. Like specifically, if you go to a milk pouring center, this is where you would be able to see it. But still, people try to keep you away from this. Like they do not let you see it. But what do you think? Like what is the reason? And the second question that I have, because you have talked about these 3 prices. Where, like you said about the farm gate prices translating, there's no translation into the consumer prices. But because we also have a market that is not 100% organized, we have also unorganized segment. So what do you think, like what kind of a impact it has? Because where farmer is directly able to sell to the consumer. So for example, there's a Gwala who's producing milk and directly sells it to the market. How it impacts the overall balance in the organized sector? Does it has any implication or no implication is there?
Yeah, interestingly, the market price is actually now decided by it's an oligopolistic structure. I just want to discuss.
Yeah.
And in an oligopolistic structure, the biggest player does the first mover advantage.
Yes. Yes.
That's a well-known fact.
So
this is a pure basic pricing mechanism, market pricing mechanism.
Yeah.
How does it take place?
The leading brand always takes the lead. Yeah.
Who is the biggest player, and what is his or her take as of today?
Yeah.
And the first mover takes a decision, and everyone responds immediately.
Immediately, yeah.
Irrespective of whether you are in the organized sector or unorganized sector, there is absolute no difference. Because you play to the market.
Yeah. Yeah.
Market has now moved because of the person who is the biggest player in that particular space. He has moved, and therefore everyone has to follow suit.
Yeah.
It's an automatic mechanism. Now, once you get into this business, a very cushy way of moving along, you know how the cradle will rock.
Yeah.
So you wait for the first mover advantage, first mover to biggest player to start moving, and everyone moves in sync. And the first mover, if this is a state market and society triangle. The state has a role, the market has a role, the society as milk producers have a role. They have each three of them have a role. Unfortunately, now the market has so much power that now it rules over the state first thing. The state can make a policy. So the market starts dictating what the policy should be. And the society is very weak. As I told you, it's all 1/2 liter, 1 liter. It really does not matter. I get 1 rupee extra, 1 rupee lower. I have no say, literally. So these two, the state, the market and the state have literally, sorry to say, have ganged up. And ensured that this society, the producers, do what they want, whatever is required by the market as such. My thesis results state that it is a common knowledge that in India, last 50 years, the consumer price is on a linear uptrend.
Yeah.
This is the only agriculture commodity which has never had a downtick. I mean, that is in agriculture commodity. Can you imagine agriculture commodity which has never given a downtick?
Yeah. Yeah.
At the consumer end, any other commodity. Of course, meat is also similar. The meat is also similar. It also plays the same way. A linear uptrend without even a single downtick. Even in real terms. Because then we converted nominal terms to real terms and found that even then, even real terms, there is a straight line.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true.
Vis-a-vis, when you do if you do in real terms, when you deflate it, remove the inflation effect of all the prices. Very interesting is that the price of farmgate price is like this.
Yeah.
There is actually on a downtrend. Downtrend. Of course, because I could capture, I worked on because farmgate price, there is no national average.
That is true. Yeah, it cannot be.
I worked on one particular area, and what were they getting 30 years or 20 years ago? Because that organization was there even then. So what were the farmers getting at that time, and what they were getting today? So I could use on one particular area and find out what is the difference. And there I found that this is so I can extrapolate. I'm just extrapolating one single case study of one district or one state, and then I'm just saying that this could be the same in other places also. So that is true. So and to that extent, there is a bias involved that only one particular district or one state has. But you get the point. It is actually because this is a replication of another model in other states.
Yeah, I can completely agree with this, because like if you where you talked about the consumer prices, they have definitely linear trend. But when you talk about this seasonality or wave nature of the milk price paid to the farmer, I think I can completely agree, because if we see this we agree, we do not agree. There's a significant seasonality in milk production in India. So we have seasons which are peak seasons, we have lean seasons, and I think this is where the milk prices should also, like I have not seen the data, but there should be a sink in the prices paid to the consumer, to the farmer as well. So, but like for me, the most striking thing is like that it has been going down vis-a-vis when the cost of production is actually going up. So in this sense, like if this data like that you are portraying, technically our farmers are losing money when they're continuing farming. So this is what I can derive out of what we have just discussed.
Farmgate price, not only any agriculture commodity also, just please note that it's not a COD, cash on delivery. Cash on delivery is at the retail price, it's a cash on delivery.
Yeah.
A retail consumer has to pay cash on delivery.
Yeah.
And get the product. So there is no lag between the product delivery and the price being received. Interestingly, it is not so in the farmgate price. The price you receive today, I mean the price declared you product, give the product today, the money will be received after T plus 7 or T plus 10 days.
Yes, 7 to 10 days later.
Meaning the farmer is selling milk on credit basis.
Yeah.
You cannot compare a COD with credit line. Yeah. So you have to first of all deflate that cost of that money has to be 7 days or 10 days has to be built into that. We are not building it.
Yeah.
And this I have worked out as a thumb rule. There is around 10,000 crore rupee money being used by the processors or sellers. People who of the farmers, forget about of the farmers, because they are not paid the money. 7 days, you can pay the money after 7 to 10 days. And customers already given you the money.
Yeah.
So you have a 10 to 15 days of credit with you, which works to around, as I told you, around 5 to 10,000 crore rupee.
Wow.
With 0% interest.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why every MNC worth its name wants to come into the Indian market.
It's pretty much more the finances that works out better. I said it's like the financial system that plays out in favor of them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And because of the credit, now I am stuck to the same buyer now. Because I have to get 7 days money I have to receive. To ensure that I get that, continue to get that, I have to supply to that one single buyer. Interestingly, this is not the original model which even Amul promoted. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Amul promoted morning milk to be paid in the evening, and evening milk to be paid, supplied in the morning. Next day morning, cash will be given. And this is even today is prevalent in one single district, old district, Kheda district.
In Kheda. And
today it's become Kheda and Anand. 2 districts are now. So these 2 districts, even today, it's a 12-hour gap, which is not required actually, frankly. Which is not required. In today's world, you can transfer lakhs and lakhs of rupees with a mouse click.
That is true.
It does not require a rocket science to say that it can be done overnight. Direct benefit transfer, DBT, which they call in the government terms, payment could be done immediately. One single policy across the country saying that anyone who buys milk from farmer have to pay immediately. Simple. Why not? Why should a small farmer who is anyway on a cash deficit anyway, a small farmer, all of us know.
Yeah, exactly.
Or he or she is always on a net cash deficit. 0 or negative. what right does anyone have, conscious, to take credit, to buy it on credit from the person who doesn't have any money?
Yeah, I think like if we will talk to people, and specifically people who are in corporates, we will hear, okay, when we buy milk, we still do not have marketed it, so we do not have got paid for it, so we cannot pay it because there's a lag of certain number of hours in when milk is procured and when milk is delivered. So we still do not have the cash from the for the farmer that that this is where the lag is. But now coming back to the milk pricing mechanism, sir. So,
yeah.
Like for example, as prior to the call, we were discussing, like we have two axes like fat and SNF based axis. But like for example, when we see the West, specifically talking about US, where the milk pricing is most transparent. Europe is also not that transparent, I would say. This is where you have like a cheese blocks at what prices they are being sold. That somehow helps us reduce the price of class 3 milk. And from there, the remaining milks prices are discovered. So what is the discovery mechanism in India? Like how milk price is being discovered? I think like that is a very critical question. Also, when we talk about two excesses, how these excesses weigh in the overall milk price that is paid to the consumer, to the farmer.
Yeah. So as you rightly said, we are, as of now, we are the farmgate price.
Yeah.
Consumer price also, they say that we are doing on the same pattern as such. So this one fat and SNF.
Yeah.
So we have basically divided milk into three parts. One is water, which we do not cost at all. 85% is water. Around from 5 to 10% is fat. And around 8%, 8 to 9% is the solids, not fat.
Yeah.
So these are the three parts on which, so only fat. So as of now, only fat and SNF, so solids, not fat, are in a very systematic manner. They are costed as such. There's a proportion between the weight of these two. The fat and SNF, obviously fat is higher cost. And there is, I think, 2/3 or some amount, there's a proportion of that becomes the cost of the solids, not fat. So it is not, the fat is costed first. Fat is costed. And that, like you said, the price of cheese is translated down. So to that extent, theoretically, yes, the price of ghee, which you said in the market, now that gets translated to the price of fat. That is pure fat. And some proportion of that gets translated to the cost of the solids, not fat, which is the powder.
Yeah.
And that gets built into the saying. Then there's a matrix saying that so many percentage of fat, so many percentage of SNF, and therefore you get this price as such. And there is sometimes some people have two layers for this. One is for cow milk, one is for buffalo milk. So there's a third dimension. So x-axis, y-axis is fat, SNF is one 2x2 matrix. And there is a X on Y and Z also sometimes takes place when there is both cow and buffalo milk are coming into the system as such. This has been actually more of a convenience rather than real requirement in terms of consumer, especially Indian consumer. And there's also, please realize that there is an urban consumer, there's a rural consumer. In fact, the producers consume who are around 20% of the households in the rural space.
Yeah.
The thumb rule, just assume that 20% of the rural households have animals, and they don't buy milk at all. They don't have to buy. So that is one segment removed. Now, rural space who don't have animals, they are a different consumer altogether.
Yeah.
Urban consumers don't have animals, obviously.
Yeah.
And that's a totally different consumer altogether. So these three consumers are totally different. But the rural consumer, both the producer of milk and the non-producer of milk, who don't have animals, they have a different structure vis-a-vis the urban consumer.
Yeah, that I agree.
Especially, again, I repeat, in the Indian context.
Mm-hmm.
The rural consumer is very clear what he or she wants. It is just either cow milk or buffalo milk.
Mm-hmm.
And cow milk also,
Yeah.
preferably the Indian cow milk.
Yeah. Desi guy.
Desi guy.
Yeah.
So literally all the milk which comes into the urban space,
Mm-hmm.
into the production and the processes and etc., is actually either the crossbred cow milk
Mm-hmm.
or the buffalo milk.
Yeah.
Because that's excess. Because 55% even today is, I think, 45% of the milk is even today is buffalo milk.
Yeah.
40 to 50, 55% is today, even today, buffalo milk. 55%, even today. There is absolute no change. Very interesting. The proportion of cow milk and the buffalo milk in the Indian production system has not changed over the last 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
The buffalo continues to remain the mainstay.
Yeah. I think this is where
The
the
proportion
consumer,
of the
I just wanted to say, like, how as a consumer we have been trained, like a good quality milk should have a very thick malai line. And this is where we judge buffalo ka milk as a better milk. Digestibility is not an issue. Everything is like sideline.
No, it is not.
Layer
No,
of
it is not.
malai is the thing.
Yes,
The cream
yes.
layer.
And that also, as I said, if you're an urban consumer or urban rural consumer, it's different.
Mm-hmm.
Because, for example, in Bangalore, my house owner,
Mm-hmm.
he is from the northern Karnataka belt.
Mm-hmm.
Maharashtra, Karnataka, that's called.
Mm-hmm.
Belgaum.
Mm-hmm.
Till he came to Bangalore, he never knew that cows give milk.
Really?
He is a consumer of buffalo milk.
Yeah. Okay.
That particular tract is pure buffalo tract.
Pure buffalo tract, yeah.
Actually, so much of milk production there. Actually, Kolhapur takes a lot of buffalo milk from there. That northern Maharashtra,
Yeah.
northern Karnataka takes a lot of milk there. And for me, it was a revelation. Here is a consumer who was in a rural space, who never knew that we drink consumer cow milk. And he was a pure buffalo milk. That's why I said that rural space is a very clear market, is either a cow milk or buffalo milk, and if it is a cow milk, preferably Indian cow milk.
Yes, that I
the
can.
Urban space is the one what you are talking about. We have been trained.
Yes.
We don't know the origin is not known now. We do not know it's cow. We do not know it's buffalo.
Yeah.
Now we have been a Brahma has been created that fat is very important, or fat ka malai ka kuch hai, etc. Now create a aura. It's like a marketing campaign. You create a value for something and you start charging for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is not there. Unfelt need, so-called unfelt need in a market system. You show that there is an quality, and you start valuing that as the cost.
Yeah.
In fact, I have written a lot of articles and saying that if you skim milk powder, if you can get very cheap. Not at this time. We got about 8 years ago. We had the huge glut of powder outside the country. In the international market. So my suggestion at that time was that all the school milk programs, we import milk powder, mix it with water, and give the children milk.
Yeah.
It would have costed actually less than 4 rupees per liter. I went only 200 ml. If you give to each child, it would have come to around 50 paise per child, less than 50 paise.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I still agree with this, what you just said, sir. Like that, you're talking about like 8 years back. I still say that access to milk in India is very, very difficult. So especially when you see now, even like when we talk about places like Bihar, Orissa, or like all these eastern states, a lot of time milk is actually being procured from the western surplus regions and then being brought and reconstituted. Yes. And I think we should rather make it a more of an habit to ensure that our underprivileged section of our societies should have actually access to milk. And this can only be made possible not by fresh milk, not by giving them sweets or anything else, but by ensuring that they have access to the milk powder. And as a society, it's our responsibility to ensure if either we are producing that at an optimal price or we are importing that for underprivileged societies. Unfortunately, just to protect our dairying system, we have ensured that a section of the society does not have access to milk because it's too expensive for them. So this is what my thought has been. But yeah, like coming back to the milk pricing, I think this is very interesting. So like how buffalo prices, like, so it's basically okay. So one is the system that is like really old system of pricing the milk. Then the second thing that we have is like how we have as a society we have been trained, because we have rather been giving more weightage to the fat versus to proteins in the milk versus to anything else in the milk. So that's why it also creates a skew towards high fat being the component that is ruling the milk prices. So here I have a like example, like I was working with a company, or like we were trying to help them. This is where they had a significant volatility in the milk prices, and they wanted to say have a projection of milk prices. So when we talk about being able to like forecast milk prices, and then we have already talked about two axes, and the third axis being the animal. How do you see these three axes being able to contribute to a projection of the prices? Is it possible, not possible? And the second question that I would actually like to ask you is about the current state of milk prices in India. Do you think the prices are optimal? Like, because like as you mentioned, as the prices paid to the farmers are going down, and with the current inflation, the prices are the cost of production is going up. So, what impact do you see on these farmers of this? So, two very big questions, but
yeah. There are two aspects. Let's come to the farmgate price. Let me just confirm that. I mean, I was very happy to hear the ideas about. I mean, I was very interested. Very interesting point you said is that the reconstituted milk.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting story. I think we should finish that and then come back to this.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
That's very. I like that point. Now that you have brought it up, because I have just written 2 days ago in LinkedIn. You must have seen that. Time has come for defining what is milk.
Yeah.
Fresh milk. Not reconstituted milk. Not reconstituted milk. Reconstituted milk is reconstituted milk, period.
Yeah. But a lot of times sold as a fresh milk.
No. The FSSAI agrees to, the government of India has agreed in principle to sell, any damn white liquid as milk at the same price line.
Yeah.
It's like selling a first-hand car and a second-hand car at the same price.
At the same price line, yes.
I mean, it is just logically something wrong. Okay. Yeah. So I like your point is that there is a target audience who are quite happy with the skim milk powder reconstituted milk.
Yeah.
Perfect. Especially the lower rung people who require nutrition, basic nutrition, children, women, they do require proteins, not fat.
Yeah.
In fact, that's one of the suggestions I have been writing again and again is that the children should be given not skim milk, but buttermilk made from skim milk powder. Because buttermilk is a probiotic. And buttermilk is a national drink of India. The reason, and all of us used to drink every day in the morning, it's a freshly prepared buttermilk. There is a reason behind it, because these are all live bacteria which are non-pathogenic.
Yeah.
So you consume a lot of live non-pathogenic bacteria, you come under an antibiotic umbrella for the next 24 hours. So when you go out into the world, a lot of pathogenic bacteria may try to come and attack you. But you already have a big bank of non-pathogenic bacteria with you. You have just drunk in the morning.
Yeah.
They say that we are here in numbers. You are very few in numbers. So play down your tone. So the pathogenic bacteria are not able to affect your body, the children's body also, anyone's body. So in fact, I have recommended that skim milk powder, from skim milk powder, make milk, make buttermilk and give to the children. That's a huge opportunity, definitely. And as I'm 101% with you that the time has come. This was because these rules were made again in 50s when we had deficit in milk. Both the reconstituted milk and fresh milk were combined and told that this is only milk only. For that day, it was superb, perfectly okay. But not today. We are the last 30. Again, this also I've been rating that last 30 years we have been saying that we are the biggest producer in milk. Even the IDF conference also where you attended.
I saw that post of yours.
The Prime Minister himself spoke about it. I'm sorry. After 30 years, have we grown?
No.
We are a zero in exports. Zero. In spite of being the largest producer in the world. Isn't there something amiss?
Of course.
This is related to the point you're saying that the milk price, as long as the milk price is first transparent and gets translated from the consumer to the producer, we will again 50 years apart. Next Prime Minister also will say that last 50 years we are the world's largest producer of milk. We will again zero in the export market.
I tell you one more thing, sir. Like that, what my observation has been. We are so proud, and I think we should be proud. We have done a phenomenal job.
Okay.
But as a processing company, a country that with producing milk and processing milk, we are not doing that phenomenal job now. We did in the past, but not now. Because one thing that I have always been very curious about, what is sustainability? What is self-sufficiency? What is self-sufficiency? When you have 2 spoons of milk, everyone has 300 grams of milk. What is that number? Then say, okay. Or with the kind of milk that we are consuming now, we are consuming more cheese. So technically, we are consuming more solids. Are we self-sufficient now? Secondly, if you have a seasonality, that means like in the peak season, you're producing more. In the leans, you're producing less. And then over that, like you're 101, 102% self-sufficient. That means there are certain months in the year when you're not self-sufficient. That means like the peak is helping you sustain those troughs that you produce. So where are you self-sufficient? Like, where is it? What is there? Like, so I do not understand what is, and this is what I have tried to understand from multiple stakeholders. How do you define a self-sufficiency? It's like when everyone has 2 cups of milk, 1 cup of milk, has certain amount of solids that they can drink or eat. So for me, I would personally like to get it defined as like amount of solids that someone is able to consume. But when we see India as a whole and in the solids, we are net deficit because we do not produce enough solids for our population to consume. So this is my take, like we are not self-sufficient in number of solids. So there's nothing to be proud about. We should be proud about our past because we did phenomenal job. We were deficit. We were able to produce enough milk, but now we are not producing enough milk. This is what my take is. And another thing that I also think is like most of the milk production, the growth that we have seen is not we have produced more milk, but we were able to collect more milk. It was already being produced, but we went deeper, further into more, like let's say, beehives of India where we were able to reach, collect, bring it to the processing plant. That showed that we were producing. But now I do not personally see the growth happening. And over that, like at the IDF, one of the key stakeholders of Indian dairy, he suggested in 25 years, like we will be tripling our milk production. I do not know how. So, but yeah, like a lot of things like that we can talk about. But yeah, like coming back to the discussion.
Coming to the point, you were talking about the cost of milk production.
Yeah.
You touched upon that. Obviously, it is not the cost of milk production which is important. It is the profitability of milk production which is important.
Very true. Very true.
invariably we everyone wants an MSP. Unfortunately, a lot of states have started giving milk production subsidy. Around 8 states have started giving milk production subsidy for every liter of milk produced and poured into the dairy cooperative. They are now up to 6 rupees they are paying directly to the farmer. Now you have skewed the market.
Yeah.
The moment an external agency come into the play of pricing, the market gets totally bent.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is not smooth anymore.
Yeah.
Now again a party dependency is there. Now because the previous chief minister has given, now I as a chief minister have no option but to give it.
Yeah.
Now this is like the dog's tail. Who is going to keep the dog's tail straight? It's next to getting to near impossible story as such in these states.
Yeah.
5 or 6 states have started giving this directly from the exchequer.
Yeah.
And one state I have calculated 90% of the revenue expense goes to the milk production subsidy.
Wow.
Can you imagine? Nothing else. There is no other work at all being done.
Yeah.
Public money being given to, and that is another interesting point. There is a highly skewed production system. Very interesting. There are only 10% of the producers who produce maximum milk.
Yeah.
And the remaining all like that. It's a very highly skewed story. It's not a It's not like an American or US thing. It's a bell curve. It's 10% of the actually produce. There's like 70% of the milk. And they get the maximum benefit subsidy program. It's a very regressive subsidy.
Yeah.
Who produce more, they'll get more.
Yeah.
The small producers will get 1 liter per liter, whatever he or she will get.
And that is also being paid from the consumer's taxes. So technically, consumer is subsidizing his own milk and at the end paying not from the consumer price.
You have come to a point. Absolutely. So it was a producer subsidy.
Yeah.
And as you rightly pointed it out, even without even just like that, it has actually become a consumer subsidy.
Yeah.
A typical case of producer subsidy became all producers. This is a theoretical also has been also proved and again confirmed that whenever you give a producer subsidy, over time it actually converts itself to a consumer subsidy.
Yeah.
But everyone gets it. That's not targeted. Which like we say that poor people should get that benefit. It is not so. People who consume, you and I also get the same subsidy and get that benefit of the subsidy, and people who cannot even afford a half a liter of milk, they also get the same subsidy.
Yeah. So now coming to one of the questions that I asked you earlier is about the 3 axes of milk. So like, what do you think, like, what is the current validity of that system? Because it was designed long time back. That is one question. The next question that I also like that we already touched base slightly earlier is because as you mentioned, like in one of the states where you did some study, you saw that CPI has been like raising linearly, but the farmgate prices, so you saw a decline. You saw the seasonality, but also a decline in what is being paid now. So in that context, how do you see the farm profitability? That is one. Second is, how many of these farmers would actually be farming in the coming decade if they do not make money?
Okay, that's it. Let me just finish the pricing first. That's where I told you that there are 3 types of consumers. One is the rural consumer and the urban consumer. So the whole pricing is basically to support give milk to the urban consumer, not to the rural consumer. Rural consumer is very clear. Fat or SM is not important at all. It's for them. It's the cow or buffalo milk. And he or she knows that particular cow or buffalo milk, and they are quite happy with that. So that system is very, very clear. The urban consumer is the story as such. Actually, we are most of our discourse is basically on the urban consumer. Very unfortunate, because That's only. Please note that the organized sector even today caters to only 30% of the milk. Marketable surplus.
Yeah, marketable surplus. Yeah,
marketable surplus, because 50% is consumed at household.
Yeah,
100 liters of production at any point at time, nearly 45 to 50% is consumed at home or to the neighbors nearby. Neighbors directly. Sales is over.
Yeah.
The remaining 50% is so-called marketable surplus is actually comes out. Of the 50%, 30%, which is actually 15% of the total production, is organized sector actually works on the 15%.
Yeah, 15%.
So all this tamasha which you saw in Delhi was actually natak by the 15 people who handle 15%.
Yeah.
They will not tell you that.
Yeah, that I know. That I also saw.
I can debate. You have a right to your opinion, not to agree with me.
No, I completely agree. I completely agree. And if you if you would have been there, you would have seen like what kind of yeah, it was yeah, like it was a lot of band.
Maybe that okay. Because I had attended the Cochin conference 3 years ago. The Indian Dairy Federation conference, not international one. The international, after 38 years they had in India.
Yeah.
The Indian Dairy conference I attended 3 years ago in Cochin, and I delivered a lecture on use of biotechnology, proper identification systems for animals using RFIDs and other new technologies. Anyway, okay. So coming to the point of pricing. So the pricing is basically basically aimed at the urban consumer, and we are only talking about the 15% of the total production. That has to be very clear. The context is very important. We are not talking about the whole 100% of the population as such. The total milk production as such. So there is a bias involved in that story as such, obviously, and it's applicable to only this particular portion. Remaining, they've got no. For them, it doesn't really matter at all. I want a cow milk, and I know the cow milk, and I know the etc. So the pricing is based on, of course, the pattern itself for this particular purpose, because they have to sell the ghee and they have to sell the powder. Excess powder has to be converted, and they have to sell that also. So that actually goes separate. As I told you, there's no correlation. Theoretically, there is supposed to be a correlation, but in practice, there is no correlation between the consumer price of the ghee and the milk powder which we are talking about, and the actual price being paid to the thing. That is demand and supply, because there is, as you rightly say, there is a seasonality. Depending on, especially in cow and buffalo milk. Buffalo milk population is higher, then the seasonality is much higher. And if the cow milk, the seasonality is slightly lower because they are little, because they are not acclimatized. They're not so heat sensitive. Absolutely. So that pricing clear, profitability clear. So the very important point is that, so we actually we concluded that profitability is more important than the price. Now, profitability is that now the story is that I have again done some actual studies also found that Indian animals are generally negative in energy, negative in proteins, and negative in water.
Yeah, that I agree.
Water.
It's management problems.
Very well said. Absolutely. Before I finished, you are able to judge that. For a doctor, he just has to he has just to see the eyes, and he knows what he or she knows.
Yeah.
Like that, you just immediately understood. And I'm theoretically, I'm giving a challenge. If the animals are given, because all our animals are tied. Most of the animals are tied up and kept, and they are given water twice a day.
Yeah.
But to know water not separately. Along with the feed, they will mix it and give to the animal. So when you ask a farmer, do you give water separately? He said, what is the requirement? I have already given the water along mixed with this thing. So I ask him or her, if I give you a juice, mix all the food with the juice, put water and give it to you, will that be sufficient? He says, no, it will not be sufficient. Why? No, I want separately water. They are also animals. You are also an animal. So my my challenge is that if we remove negative water status, deficit in water on from tomorrow, it can be done tomorrow itself. It's not rocket science. I can assure you that you will not know what to do with the excess milk produced in the country. Because water is 80, milk is 85% anyway.
Yeah.
Milk will not be produced because there is a lack of water, so therefore the animal has some fat, animal has some protein, even if it has, water is not there.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing so I was in a village. I was trying to communicate with some farmers, and I said, why don't you have enough water? And they said, if you will give them enough water, the fat percentage in milk will deplete, because there would be more water. So technically you would be producing more milk, but they wanted higher prices for their milk, though they are producing.
That's a wrong thought.
Yeah, exactly.
Because every animal genetically is designed for a particular fat percentage and fat SNF percentage.
Exactly. Yeah.
That cannot be changed.
Yeah.
The proportion of the SNF, the solids not fat and water is constant for every animal. That is genetically designed. If you give more water also, nothing will happen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, somehow they got that. Now, because we don't have data, that's a point.
Yeah.
Because we do not have, the farmer does not have data, they get into a wrong notion and they start thinking about this. So the cost of production, I'm coming to a point, is that so negative protein, negative minerals, of course. Minerals is absolute. All of them are negative mineral status. Amount of, because milk is completely every day depleting water, proteins, fat, and minerals. The animal is completely being drawn out.
Yeah.
That has to be refilled every day. It has no other option. Especially calcium, etc. Okay. So and now they are promoting so coming to the cost of production. Now they are promoting cattle feed. Sorry, what is cattle feed? When I asked a farmer in New Zealand, I was in 86. I had gone to New Zealand, and I went to New Zealand and I asked. I tried to find out where is the cattle feed. It was not. I didn't see cattle feed being fed. So I asked a farmer, where is the cattle feed? You're not feeding the cattle feed. He asked me, what is cattle feed? So I had to explain what cattle feed is. Oh, is that so? I mean, a farmer who's going 250 animals, average production is 36 liters per day. That day, I'm talking about 86. 40 years ago, I mean, 36 liters of milk and without cattle feed. And he does not know what cattle feed is. So then my thought process started getting, why he is not feeding cattle feed? Then I realized that I was taught that animal is a four-stomached animal. Ruminants are four-stomached animals. Why? Because they have to eat cellulose. Grass, plants have to be eaten. The cellulose has to be digested. Cellulose is digested by the bacteria. And the bacteria have to be in a vat. And that rumen is a vat actually. And the bacteria cannot, I underline, cannot digest cereals. Seeds. Bacteria cannot digest seeds. And here we have a separate industry pushing people to produce, buy. This is a typical linear economy. Last week I was in a webinar, and one Netherlands, the lady from Netherlands was on the webinar. She said, for heaven's sake, please do not feed oil cakes. But you are importing soya bean last 30 years from Brazil, isn't it? Yes, we have done that. It's a mistake we have done. And it's a linear economy. And we don't know what to do with the urine and the cow dung, which comes out. All our water bodies are nitrogen
contaminated.
Contaminated. And we do not know. And our government has now asked us to reduce the number of animals and reduce the amount of milk production. Can you imagine that? So very constant, please do not follow our footsteps. Great learning.
That I agree, sir. One point that I want to mention is, this is my personal observation, because I also grew up in a village, and one thing that my great grandfather actually showed me how to judge the health of a cow. So if you see the cow dung, it should have multiple layers. So this is what I observed. But when I went to one of the Cargill's innovation center, and there you see most of the animals actually having diarrhea. So because what they were eating, okay, they might, and I asked like why they do have diarrhea. So like no, it's very good digestion. And I realized if a human would actually be doing this would not be considered as a very good digestion. It would be considered as a diarrhea. So technically, one of the biggest problems that we have created by ourselves is by feeding animals what they are not designed to eat. So this is what I also agreed to. And of course, as it's a parallel economy that you have already mentioned. But yeah, sorry for detracting.
I am 101% with you. This is the basics of veterinary science. When we treat animals, two things we look at. One is how the stool, the dung is.
Yeah.
And what color is the urine.
Yeah.
These are the basics of your husbandry. I mean, how do you treat an animal? I'm 101% with you. Your great grandfather was. I have a great respect for our forefathers, including great father.
Yeah, it's indigenous traditional knowledge that they actually give us. So
absolutely, correct.
Yeah. So yeah, now like we have already talked about the pricing and everything, like how it's been percolating. So technically, we are talking about the 15% of the overall milk production that is being priced by this mechanism. And also we have talked that like there are three prices and they do not percolate into each other's layer. So there's no dependency or relations or correlations, as you mentioned, that you found through your studies. Now, like coming to the last question that I'm still very much interested in to understand is in the area where you have done some studies, you found out that milk, the consumer price is growing linearly, but the paid price to the farmer has been declining. So, what do you think in this scene? Like, are farms profitable? Because this is one point that you mentioned. Like, we should not talk about the cost of the production, but we should talk about the profitability. Are these farms profitable? And the last question will be: will these farmers will still be farming in the future?
Yeah. So we are looking into a past. I mean, to the future. Sorry, based on the past.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I see the both ways. I mean, I essentially because of the bad past, I think that still think that we have a great future.
Yeah.
I mean, that is why I still live today. Frankly, I'm telling you, that is the optimism I see. Strength number one. India produces 75% milk produced even today is A2 milk. All our indigenous cows and indigenous buffaloes produce only A2 milk. And this 20% recently came in. That has to be washed out slowly out of the system as such. There is no other way. Because I have written about this. The crossbreeding is passe. Crossbreeding is it's not crossbreeding. It is indiscriminate breeding.
That is true.
Crossbreeding has a very, very clear objective. Only hybrid F1 generation has the vigor. F2 generation, it is zero. What are we creating? After F2, what happens? In poultry, look at poultry, how the parent stock is maintained, how the layer stock is maintained, etc., etc. Plant breeding, look how purity is maintained for those pure breds. And then you bring them together and give them one seed, that is the line which is hybrid seed. You have a maximum potential there. After that, it is useless doing anything. We cannot do that in cows. We cannot. And that will be a harakiri because we are going against the biodiversity. India is we are signatory to the biodiversity thing. And we cannot use single animal and try to breed all animals as such. Anyway, so the point is that future is I see bright because India is producing the maximum production of A2 milk, and we have the breed number one, and number two is the number of breeds across the country. We have about 100 breeds, indigenous breeds of cows and buffaloes. No other country has this variety. which has been developed over 5,000 to 10,000 years. That is our strength. So I have a huge potential. Example is the Gir animal which has been taken. 300 animals were taken from Gir. When the Raja gave it off, it was taken to Brazil.
Girland.
They are one of the top producers in the world. Pure breeding. This pure breeding, not cross breeding. Meaning every one of the 100 breeds in India have the potential to what that Gir animal has shown in Brazil is what we have got. And our farmers know how to rear those animals. You don't require to teach them.
Yeah.
And no reskilling is required. So the potential is that we are the largest producer of A2 milk. We have the largest biodiversity population in the system. And as I told you, we are all our animals are negative protein, negative mineral, negative water, which are all very easy points to. The leverage is so high because I did a micro analysis. I did some work in micro at individual farmer level. At 10% reduction in the cost of production, it resulted in 100% rise in the profitability.
Wow.
Even the farmer was so surprised.
Yeah.
Then he had bought a new camera. He was a young boy and he bought a new phone, and he said he was so happy. Money, what are profitable? I have got a new phone, so that I can talk to you more. Now, video also you can show me. I mean, that is the amount of potential. So the negativity, what is there in the past, is the strength. We have the amount of potential which each farmer can profitably can rise. Forget about the price. Price that's a different story altogether. First of all, the profitability. If the profitability increases, then there will be a different story altogether. Prices, as I said, we are only talking about the 50% of the population. Others want only cow milk or buffalo milk.
That is true. That is true. No, I think like this is really valuable, sir, because one thing, like there are multiple things, like I must say. So one, but I also saw during our dialogue, like how multiple things come together to describe the prices. So it's also not just like these three axes, but it's also the types of consumers that we are talking about, to be like urban consumer, local consumer. There's also a layer of what we have been taught in our past. So for example, my mother told me that, okay, wherever you boil the milk, it should be very thick layer of milk. And actually, I'll tell you, when she visited me here in Germany, like we bought some milk and she actually boiled the milk just to see how big layer of cream it would produce. But the milk was homogenized, so did not. And so like, oh, it's not a very good quality milk. But on the bacterial load side, another side, actually the milk was actually very good. So there are multiple layers, but I think we haven't like actually concluded the dialogue. I think we should come back again to like further continue the discussion, because there are multiple very interesting points that you have mentioned that I would actually like to touch base upon in the next dialogue. So one is definitely being like how milk is being priced. That is like we have already started touching on it. Types of consumers and impact of these two consumers. That is the second thing that I would like to talk in the next dialogue. One thing that you have also mentioned that I was personally like I'm intrigued is like these three prices and how their percolation is not happening. And for me, I always thought like somehow these prices are actually impacting each other. This is what my personal instinct was, but this is not happening. So this is the actually like I would like to do a deep dive into this. And next is like I would like to pick up your brains again on what our NDDB has said is like tripling of India's milk production in next 25 years. That is one of the topics I would really like to touch. I personally think because like with the animal resource that we have, that can be possible. But will it be possible? Because there are multiple constraints to it. One being management practice, next being like resource availability, and third actually being the economics. If we produce so much of milk because of the supply demand balance, what we would be doing of those milk, and like at what price it would go. And the last point that I would actually like to involve another of industry expert is like how to ensure nutritional access to our poorest of the poor strata. of the population. This is what I would actually like to touch base with you again. So for the timing, I would actually like to thank you for you joining us and like giving me your time, and also being very open about the topic. So thanks a lot, sir, and I really look forward to our next dialogue very soon.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Prashant. It's been always a pleasure. You really get open. We have got nothing.
Yeah.
We are a little agency and we have discussed something.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Same here.